Welcome to Unemployed and Afraid, a podcast that explores the glorious mess of building your own business with the people doing it. I'm your host and fellow business builder, Kim Kerton. Thank you for being here. Let's get into some good, honest, small business chat. Listener, hello. It's so good to be in your ears, which sounds way weirder than I mean it to, but I am very glad you're here and that you've chosen this podcast to be in support of you as you build your business. I think that when people describe building a business, like what the experience is like, and they use the term roller coaster, what I'm about to describe to you might be one of the situations that they mean. See, there are a few inevitabilities in what we do, like not knowing how to do something, Google Ads, website, technical builds, CRM systems, process docs, logistics, and all flavors of marketing and content learnings and the actual learning process for these things. And it makes you want to pull your hair out. There's probably going to be tears and tantrums and wanting to give up, but then you get it. You push through, you crack on, and you learn a new thing that you cannot unlearn. You just know it now, and that's awesome. But that's not the big stomach-dropping roller coaster moment I'm talking about. I'm talking about this gem. It's those days and weeks in which the feeling of panic associated to your cash flow or overall revenue position, specifically the lack thereof, that is absolutely crippling. If you haven't had this feeling before, I can tell you, and so many of the amazing business owners I've spoken to on this podcast will tell you, it's awful. There's no other word for it. Counting up bills, deferring payments, figuring out how to move money from here to there. It is soul crushing. It is overwhelming. It's really scary and unsettling, and it will probably happen. I had a moment recently where I realized that I had been working on a massive thing, one big, massive pitch essentially, and it had overtaken my headspace. And it caused me to take my eye off building those sort of smaller, more regular opportunities. And so once I'd finished this thing, which as I said, essentially a big pitch, I was staring down the barrel of an empty pipeline. And as a sales girly at heart, I can tell you this is a very, very silly position to find yourself in. But as a girlie who also fully understands how hard it is to do all of the things at once, I understood how it had happened, how I had gotten myself in this position. But it didn't necessarily take away that deep and painful fear of, oh gosh, what am I going to do? But in this episode in particular, I am not. I'm refusing to stay in that place of fear. Although I love it because it does push us to an edge, I'm going to stay in the positive because that place of ruminating over our mistakes or kicking our own butts for what we have or haven't done, it's just a little bit unnecessary, particularly if you're listening at the time that I'm releasing this at end of financial year. We just don't need this kind of stress right now. But what I actually want to highlight as part of this is the funny thing that happens to us entrepreneurs when we're backed into a corner that feels hideous. And like there's no real tangible solution beyond throwing things out there, essentially throwing shit at a wall and hoping that something comes through. When we're in that position, when we're backed into a corner, when we feel like there's no plan B to kind of pull out and go, oh, look, I've got this safety net. That's okay. I've got this in the pipeline. When you're fully backed into that corner, we straight up hustle. Like it's amazing. We find the language within ourselves to sell ourselves without any fear. We think logically and strategically about who we know, who they can introduce us to, who we can reach, what we can say to them, how we find them in our social media platforms, in our email databases, and what message we can share with them, and what opportunities we might be able to carve out of absolutely nothing, and we go for it. I low-key kind of love this moment, which is a bit sick. I get it. But it's kind of like, again, that roller coaster of intensity. But it's that moment where all of the fear and the self-doubt and the rumination or the perfectionism, it just completely dissipates. And we go out and put posts, promotions, content, ideas, pitches, emails, general asks just out there. And some of them actually pay off. that moment where you're staring at an empty pipeline of revenue, it absolutely sucks, especially if you're in the service-based business, because I know the time to sale can be a really long one and a really unpredictable one. And if you're in, product, I know that you've got your own unique challenges with this too. But yeah, it's scary. It's just scary when you look at no pipeline, no matter what it is you're doing. What's, I think, worse about it is that moment that some of us have, and I know that I had, where you have to talk to your partner or your family about where you're at. When you're working as a solopreneur, you just kind of head down on this, but then you put your head up and you have to talk about it to someone else, someone who's involved in your life. And seeing their fear is a goddamn motivator. Let me tell you, you can see it in their eyes. And it's like, you're like, well, if I wasn't already stressed, I am now off and running on this roller coaster. It just lights a fire under your ass that is horrible, but also gold. Sometimes I wish I could bottle that feeling because it is where we need to be more often than not. I don't mean with a low pipeline, and I don't mean feeling like we could be letting other people down. I don't mean that. I mean that energy where we give no more fucks and we just go for it, pitching with no fear, without waiting to have every detail worked out about how you'll deliver a certain service offering or a certain new product or anything before you put it out there. You don't need to work out if everything is going to look perfect and be perfect. Sharing ideas as they come without that self editing, gold. Innovating with new ideas, services, partnerships, offerings that you never would have thought of before. Absolute just amazingness. And this is what it's all about, learning to trust yourself that even when you can't see what's coming or you find yourself backed into a corner, you can and you will make something out of nothing. It's unbelievable, really, what you do, what we do, what entrepreneurs do, but a goddamn roller coaster in every sense of the word. If you've experienced this recently and gotten to that bottom of the peak, oh, let's take a breath and pat ourselves on the back. And I do wonder if there is something we can do to channel that energy so that we can tap into it before it gets too close to the edge. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's possible. I kind of hope it is. But I do know that sometimes, as annoying as it is, pressure makes absolute diamonds. Maybe to channel some of that today, you can find just 15 or 20 minutes in your day to email someone that you thought about recently and pitch yourself for an idea, a new partnership, a feature, or something. Just spend 15, 20 minutes, write the email, send it. Don't overthink it. Or maybe you can come up with some super random way to make yourself some more cash. Maybe it's a digital offering. Maybe it's an extension to your current service offering. Maybe it's a referral system. Maybe it's an innovative new sale, a gift with purchase, or partnership you can do with another business in the product space. And just put it out there before you overthink it, because you can and you will make business miracles. Listener, I am just in awe every day of what it is that we do, no matter what the journey looks like and how it goes and how it changes. I'm just in awe of the personal learnings and personal growth that we can experience through this. It truly is so unique. And I am so glad that you have shown up for this podcast and are tuning into it to allow it to support you. It's my privilege to support you and provide you some value on your business journey. As you know, I do it all by my Pat Malone, all by myself. And so your support is just absolute gold. Your support by following me on Instagram, Unemployed and Afraid, on TikTok at Unemployed and Afraid Pod. That's huge support. Telling a friend about it is massive support. It helps me grow the show. It helps me attract more sponsors and more opportunities. This podcast costs me money, costs me time, but I do it for you because I love you and I want you to achieve and I want to achieve too. And, your support is just absolute gold. So please continue to get behind the show. Please continue to dive into my DMs. And also, if you've ever wanted to create your own podcast and you want it to serve your business, email me at kim@unemployedandafraid.com.au or find me on the socials again and slide into my DMs, because I can help you create your entire podcast plan based on the years of strategic audio and branded content knowledge. And I would love to help you. I've created a super affordable offering for you as a listener to this podcast. See what I mean? Pressure makes diamonds. And this is something that I don't think I've ever offered to you before on this podcast, albeit something that I do as a job on the other side of my business, apart from this podcast. But I would love to serve you in this way and see if we can't do some amazing work together as part of new service offerings I'm developing while being backed into that corner thinking about what cool things could I do and how can I further serve the people that I want to work with. So slide into my DMs. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up for yourself. You are awesome, brave as hell. Keep building. Thank you for listening to Unemployed and Afraid, the podcast for small business builders with your host, me, Kim Kerton. If you love it, you can say thanks with a star rating and a review. And of course, join the community on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Find us at Unemployed and Afraid wherever you're hanging out, and I'll see you there.